Voltron Season 4, Episode 2, Reunion. Now this episode was completely about Pidge, or Katie if you prefer, and her journey to find her brother Matt. And in my last review, it was kind of funny. I was like, there's no way it's just going to be about Pidge. It's going to be like her story, plus, whatever the side story is going to be. And I was completely wrong. It was all Pidge, all the time, and it was still a really great episode. Like, they did, basically, the second half of the story really were flashbacks before Pidge actually became officially Pidge, and it was still, just Katie. And I thought that was really cool. I liked the way that they did that because we really hadn't seen a lot from, her past. It was just like, these are some of the moments, of course, the moment leading up to her sneaking into the school and things like that, but we never really got that super deep connection where we saw some of the biggest moments between her and her big brother. So I thought that was definitely a great way to, have the whole story surround her journey to find her brother, and it was really well done. She goes through, it starts off, it's like, hate to leave you guys alone, hate to go alone, but there's so much that you guys need to do. Simple way to have just one character go on a, solo journey. And so she starts things off, she has like her first lead, and she beats this dude up, which was a pretty decent fight scene. It was super quick, it was pretty much instantaneous, but it was still cool, it was very decent. Like, a lot of the action in this was sweet, because we don't really see Pidge in sort of solo situations, and even during the last fight, technically she was fighting with her brother, but there are some moments in there where it's like, it's cool to see her utilize the whip technique, because it's something that just doesn't show up super often. Typically she uses something like grapple or, anything like that, and it's like, cool, I like seeing it in like its full capacity a lot more, so that I thought was really good as far as the action for the episode. But beats the guy up, gets the information that she's looking for, heads to this planet, which just so happens to be getting hit by some Gora. So takes those guys out, talks to the freedom fighter, and tries to get to this woman who is, her lead to her brother. And then, of course, another Gora attack comes in. Ship gets messed up. Pidge does her thing, takes everybody out once again. It's just very simple. And then she has to go into space to get to this woman. And it's like, you are, like the one lead that I have going towards my brother. And unfortunately, it was a lot of tragedy in this. Although ultimately, things ended up being okay. Because I was like, man, it started off, the first big lead that she had was her meeting this woman. And it was like, she instantly was like, she says Matt. So she knows that this is actually, Matt's little sister. And she gives her the code and everything. It's like, this is how you find them. And then she dies. And I was like, that sucks. Like, that was just really sad. It was like a random character. But still, it was like this little moment. And plus, it was like, of all the random things, it was like her ship was hit. It wasn't like she was hit officially in the blast. But, she was wounded enough to where, she died from it. I was like, man, that really sucks. Because, with her having been within the ship, you'd think she'd be protected. It was just like those last moments. And I was like, oh, that really sucks. So Pidge gets the info. Everything's kind of said and done with the supplies, and she's going off to this other planet, and that's where things got super dark, because she walks up to this thing, and it translates, and it's like, this place is where so many thousands of people, gave the greatest victory, which was through sacrifice, or like, they knew that the greatest victory was given through sacrifice, and so Pidge is freaking out, like, she's following this code, and she's running through all these, unmarked graves, or I guess technically they were marked, they're just marked, they're like laser marked. And it's just all of these black, gravestones. And it was just a really interesting moment. I was like, this is going to suck. And, of course, she gets to the end and she believes that her brother is dead. And, it reads the name and it just starts reading off numbers. And I was like, man, that's messed up. But it was such a great scene. And it was like, when she first read that and she starts running, they show like the green line and there's like thunder and stuff and it's about to rain because, that just makes it more dramatic. And as she goes through and she sees that information, she breaks down. It was such a great moment. They have like, the little flashes as she's running down, this insanely mass grave to get to this, this tombstone. And I thought it was such a good scene. And then of course things turned out to actually be okay. And her brother's actually still alive, and it flashes, well, it doesn't flash back, but it relates to the flashback earlier in the episode where, he's talking about like, hey, this is the secret code that me and Dad have. And while I'm gone, everything will be great because, this is what you have. So it correlates back to, an earlier flashback, and Pidge is able to find actual coordinates, and that leads her to her brother, which is a really nice moment, and they have a cool, very minute fight scene. It was just like, as soon as Pidge was like, what did you do with my brother? He freezes, and it's like, oh crap, that's my sister, and then he gets, his helmet gets knocked off, and so he turns around, and then they stop fighting, and then they, they reconnect, and it's like, hey, I'm a paladin and stuff, and everything's just great. And then we find out who was talking to that thermite broker in the beginning of the episode, and who was also on the planet following behind Pidge. And it's this bounty hunter who is looking for Matt. And for whatever reason, he has a bounty on his head. I would assume it's just the fact that he escaped and became a rebel and all that stuff. So he has a bounty, and then it's like, I was just looking for him, and then it turns out you're a paladin, and I can get the Green Lion. This is perfect. Like, this is a beautiful day for me. So then they get to this really cool fight scene, because he pulls out like 2 electric whips, and he was pretty cool. It was a cool fight scene with them teaming up, and this character being tough based on not only the weapons, but he was, you know, physically tough as well. So I like the way that they kind of played around with that idea, and how they had to use their smarts to actually defeat this enemy. And it was such a cool moment, and they're going through all the cool action sequences and stuff, and then as Pidge is running, her brother's like, hey, pull the panel off. And so when the first whip hits that, it gets basically stuck in that position and hurts the dude, so he's frozen. And then Pidge is like, alright, well, you do this. And then it was just such a great way to kind of end it out, and Matt goes in for the hit. And I like the way they did it. I thought it was fairly unique, because he goes in, he slides, he hits the staff into the ground, and then he like spins around it and bends it, and then whips it into the second whip, actually. And so that sends another current into it and like breaks everything, and it was just a really cool way to do it, and it just like completely fried the guy. And it was like, that was a cool way to do it. They do like, you know, the epic dual punch thing, and that was the ultimate way to, you know, kind of end things out. So I really love the way that the episode actually ended, and, you know, they have like that final flashback where it's like you kept the glasses and stuff. So it was such a great way to end it. It was very simple, but it was definitely a great way to end it. It was a great episode overall. It was like, this is that moment where it's like, this is really cool. And they even referenced the fact that it's like, you know, that's not the end of Pidge's journey. It was like, that was step 1, because she found her brother. And they still have to find their dad. So it's like, who knows if that's going to be as good as it was in this episode. If it's going to be as happy, I should say. So I'm very excited for that. I can't wait to see what they do with it. But this is definitely a good episode. I really like the fact that it was just, here's one character, here's this backstory, here's something that was literally the drive for this character even being in the position that she was in, because she wouldn't have been at that school if she weren't looking for more information about her brother and her father, so that she could find some way to, you know, truly learn what happened to them. And it was just a great moment, because it was like, that's been, you know, from season 1, that's been a thing, and she's been looking for her family, and now she has, you know, her brother, and now they have to find their dad. So I thought that was really great. I can't wait to see how, you know, that also changes the dynamic, because I would assume with it, you know, being her brother, he's going to stay on the ship. He's going to be another element within the ship that kind of stays, yeah, as a permanent fixture within the team. So I think that would be cool. I hope that that's how that works, because I just think that would be cool if they added a new character as someone who kind of stays on the ship. So I think that would actually be great if that's how that ends up playing out, which, once again, I assume it is, because it's like, hey, even with them being rebels, and it's like, you know, they have to help people all over the place, they just got reunited after all this time. They're probably going to stick together for at least for the rest of this season. I would have to imagine that he's just going to be, you know, at least showing up. He might not have like a huge role every single episode, but he'll be there. He'll be like a main fixture within the team now. So definitely looking forward to that. And it also helps because it's like, all right, well, we had Keith leave, and now you bring in another character to kind of replace that position. So it's still the same number of people, and Keith, you know, has his own storyline as he goes off to be with the Blade of Aurora. And then we have, you know, Team Voltron, and so it's like they were down a member, and now they have another character to kind of come in and take that place. And eventually, of course, at least I'm hoping, you know, Keith will come back and they'll just have, you know, a slightly expanded team. So I hope that's how that plays out, but ultimately, this was just a really fun episode. Glad that they, you know, finally got to this part of the story with Pidge, and, you know, this grand journey that she's been going on and freaking out about since the beginning of the series. And it's still just step 1. You know, like I said, they still have to find their father. They still need to get leads on him and all that information. So I'm definitely looking forward to that in whatever, you know, future season that ends up happening in. But definitely a fun journey for this one. Of course, would love to know what you guys thought about it. So please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts about it, your least favorite parts about it. And I definitely want to know what characters you guys want to see them focus on next, as far as, you know, heroes or villains, you know, whichever character you guys would like to see them make a really big focus on, as far as backstory, or, you know, even if it's present, you know, present day stuff, just development in general, I guess I should say, just pure development, whether it's through backstory or present day stuff. Which character would you guys like to see them focus on the most? For me, it's definitely going to be Keith, just because of the fact that, you know, now that they've at least gone through the first step of what they did with Pidge, now we can go back to Keith's story with him finding out his lineage, because that was kind of the big thing for both of them. It's like she's looking for her family, and he doesn't even, at this point, he doesn't even truly know his own. So I would love some answers on that. It was like, which parent was, an alien? Was it from your grandparents? How far back does it go? So there's a lot to that, and I'm definitely curious, when we're going to get that answer. And I would assume with him going out on his own, we're definitely going to get that this season somewhere in here. But that's what I definitely want them to focus on the most. Other than that, I feel like they've kind of done everyone else's thing. I mean, Shiro, they could probably do a little bit more on that for sure. Because they've always done, like, bits and pieces. And I don't know exactly what the case is going to be there. So, we'll see about that. Also, I don't know if this, because this is totally a theory of mine, and I know other people had it, but the whole real Shiro, fake Shiro thing that we saw when he escaped, like, that second time, and it seemed like he was seeing himself, and it was like, maybe those are memories, but maybe that was a clone, and he's the clone. Maybe I would like to get some answers on exactly what that means. I don't know if that was a thing. Maybe I need to look that up if they put some real answers out there already, but I would definitely love some info on that, because I'm still kind of wondering, is this actually Shiro? But, same thing, he connected to the lion and he's back as the paladin, but a clone's a clone. You don't know you're a clone, you would have that same connection, I would imagine, at least. So, I don't know. It's a big question kind of up in the air, but like I said, would love to know what characters you guys would like to see them focus on next. And of course, I want to know what you guys thought about this episode in general, so please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.